What's up, everybody? It's your favorite scant of the clad fighter's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the SH Figuarts Rainbow Mika. Recently released. I'm anxious to take a look at it. I've already checked her out a little bit, so to speak, and she's pretty good. But allow me to prove my case in point. Let's start with accessories. And of course, she comes with a number of hands, 2 pointing hands left and right, 2 sets of opposing hands left and right, and then a mic holding hand. The mic holding hand holds the mic just fine, and the mic itself is done quite nicely with a gunmetal silver and then a glossy black added to the top. Good enough. She comes with 2 additional faces, one with the I hope nobody checks for my homework face, and one get off my lawn face. Both styled the same way as her regular face, which we'll talk about when we get to the figure. She comes with 2 effect pieces that you can put out wherever you want. They're sculpted nicely with the yellow translucent, and 1 cardboard cutout background per usual. As for the figure itself, it's quite well done. So we have the head sculpted nicely, painted well. The eyes are painted with 3 different paint apps at least, a white, a blue, black, and maybe a highlight in the eye. It looks like it to me. And then you have the little wisp of hair that's glued on. The mask is all sculpted and painted clean, and then you have the straps tying it up in the back. The hair is shaded. It's a little heavy-handed in the front, much better done in the back where it's a lot more subtle. In the front, it's a little bit more extreme and doesn't quite match the back, so that's a bit of a bummer. The ponytails are all shaded as well. They're done much better with the more subtle shading towards the ends, and then the blue is sculpted and painted where it plugs in, and it does articulate on a swivel, so all of that is cool in the gang. I think it's a double ball peg, but let's make sure. And that's why we check. So it's a ball hinge that swivels at both ends, and then the neck, it feels like it might be on a single ball peg. So that's how they pull that off. Using all that, you get the head all the way down to there, up to there, swivels. Not much tilt out of it, so that's a bit of a bummer, but not the biggest deal in the world. Moving on, we have the frill piece, which comes up out of the neck and kind of hides the joint seam, so that's done nice. And then we have the suit, which is done okay. So we have the blue paint app added on, actually the blue and the white. The white is done fairly clean. The blue gets a little sloppy, at least on mine. Individual results will vary both here and here, so it's on the same side. It continues down throughout. The chest is very sculpted, and then you have all the, I'm like uncomfortable, I'm slightly uncomfortable even touching it. But you have the suit. What am I doing? I'm gonna touch it. I'm gonna touch it. You have the suit that's sculpted seam line around the chest or breast. And then you have a double ball peg from the chest into the abdomen. You have the abdomen, which is a softer piece of plastic, and then the pelvis, which is a softer piece of plastic. The abdomen is cut to allow the double ball peg inside for a slight ab crunch forward. Actually, fairly significant. Most of it is from the top. And then backward is even better. The suit continues up, slight gap at an extreme angle, but not the biggest deal in the world. And the suit continues up in the back, slight gap at an angle, but I think it's worth the cost of doing business, personally. You have a ball hinge shoulder that goes into a ball peg in the shoulder, and then you have a sort of capsule to hide the joint the best as possible. This allows you to get a fairly significant butterfly out of it forward and back. You can get the arm all the way up to there. It swivels around, and you get the sculpt work for the suit, the white and blue paint added on, which is nice. Double hinged elbow, which looks good and works well. And then you have the frills here that may be shaded, I can't quite tell under the lights. And then you have the wrist, which is on a ball hinge, so it swivels in, out. It swivels at both ends and hinges in, out, or if you turn it and then swivel the hand back, it'll swivel up, down. Cool in the gang. So that one works the same way. Then you have the hips, which are T-jointed ball joints. They get you all the way out to there, so almost the full Van Damme. Forward and back to there, so no issues. You get some gappage, but you know, what are you gonna do? And do they drop down? They do not. But you might be able to get a look at the guts. So it's a T-jointed ball joint that goes up to another ball peg that holds onto the abdomen piece. And then that socket probably holds the double ball peg for the chest. You get a swivel at the thigh for the same way, using the same joint rather, and then you have subtle shading on the skin tones here, and then all the suit is all sculpted and painted. Once again, the blue isn't done extremely well. It's done well enough, but not perfect. Double hinge knee that looks pretty good, especially because the knee pad helps. You do get a little gappage around there at an extreme angle, but just a little bit back at 90 degrees and you won't have a problem. No shading on the knee, but you do get it on the boot, so that's cool, and it's right around the seams from where the strings are drawing the boot close, so that works well, and then you get it around the back, so no issues there. All of it is sculpted and molded, so good to go. Then you have a ball hinged ankle. That gets you an ankle tilt down, an ankle tilt up, an additional toe hinge, and a rocker at the swivel. So a really well done rocker, I might add. So yeah, pretty good. Couple issues, but there's the backside. Great googa mooga. I mean, it's not the most practical fighting suit, is it?
Ooh, what a pretty outfit.
It is pretty, isn't it? It is. Now do me a favor, go to your room, lock the door, and never come out. Final thoughts wise, my only complaints really is with the dodginess of the paint, and that could very well be an individual. Results will vary. If you have this figure, I'd be very interested to hear what you guys are dealing with on your end. But the blue paint is a mess, and let me clarify, not a mess for any company, but a mess compared to what I'm used to expecting from SH Figuarts. And then the shading on the front half of the hair is a little heavy-handed compared to the back half of the hair where it's supposed to meet in a uniformed fashion. Plenty of positives though. The articulation is on point. The sculpt is tremendous. The joint tolerances are great across the board. There is a lot of good paint as well. Subtle shading on the white, a lot of subtle shading on the hair, subtle shading on the skin tones. Materials feel solid and definitely nails the character. So it is a recommend from me for sure. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.